Ever felt like you're speaking a language nobody gets? You're not the alpha drawing attention or the beta trying to fit in. You're a sigma, the rare breed who walks a different path, and it comes with its own set of challenges. You're often accused of arrogance for your thoughtful silence, and people might make assumptions about your emotions that are way off the mark. Just for doing your own thing, people label you as rebellious. It's that misunderstood life that you lead when you're a sigma. Here are 11 frustrating things that only sigma men truly understand. Number 1, explaining your point only to be met with blank stares. As a sigma, your thought process is deep, complex, and often genius. But it's this very complexity that poses a challenge when it comes to relaying your ideas to others. It's like you're on a frequency that very few can tune into. You find yourself explaining your complex ideas in great detail, only to be met with blank stares. It's not because your point lacks merit. It's just that your thought process is miles ahead, operating on a wavelength that others struggle to grasp. This can be frustrating at times. It's like that feeling when you make a perfect joke, but the room just stays dead quiet. Not because the joke wasn't good, but because it went over their heads. But you hold on to your beliefs, knowing that sometimes it takes time for others to catch up. This clash between your intellectual depth and the world's inability to comprehend it is a frustration uniquely understood by sigma men. Your mind is constantly working, analyzing, and processing information in a way that is not easily understood by others. So when you do speak up, it may take some time for others to grasp your perspective. Unfortunately, this happens very often for those with the sigma personality, as they constantly find themselves surrounded by people who just don't quite get it. Their words may not always resonate with others immediately, but that doesn't mean they're not valid. Sigma men may be misinterpreted or misunderstood, but they won't let that silence their voice. Number 2, ignoring the urge to say, "I told you so." There's a unique satisfaction that comes with being right, especially when you've seen the pitfalls long before anyone else. For sigmas, this sense of foresight is often dismissed or overlooked by others until reality hits hard and their predictions come to pass. It's like being the navigator on a ship whose captain ignores warnings about an impending storm. So what happens when the storm hits and the ship is rocking? You're standing there, soaked and salty, biting back the words, "I told you so." It's a frustrating dance between wanting to highlight their ignored wisdom and maintaining a mature high road stance. There's a part of you that wants to shout it out loud to let them know that they should have listened, that they disregarded your foresight at their own peril. But as a sigma, you understand the value of humility and the importance of not rubbing salt into fresh wounds. So you swallow those words, you let the lesson teach itself. It's a test of self-control that they don't teach you at school, a kind of mental gymnastics that only sigma men can truly understand. It's not about proving a point or relishing in others' missteps. It's about staying grounded, keeping your ego in check, and moving forward with quiet confidence. You know your worth, and don't need the validation of an "I told you so" to cement it. Number 3, your meaningful questions met with one-word responses. One of the most frustrating experiences for a sigma man is when his thought-provoking questions are met with dismissive one-word responses. It's like trying to start a fire with wet wood. There's no spark, no potential for a deeper connection or understanding. Sigma men are the kind who appreciate profound conversations, those that dive deep into the ocean of thoughts and not just skim the surface. They are analytical and reflective, asking questions that provoke thought and stimulate the mind. So when their questions are met with one-word responses, it can be extremely frustrating. This dismissal can feel like a slap in the face, a dismissive attitude towards their intellectual curiosity. One-word responses to sigma males are like giving a gourmet chef a fast food burger. It's not only disappointing, but it also fails to satisfy their intellectual hunger. It's the equivalent of trying to start a fire with damp wood. It just doesn't ignite the stimulating conversation they seek. They don't ask for the sake of asking. Every question carries weight, and every word has a purpose. But when their meaningful queries are met with half-hearted responses, it feels as though their intellectual effort falls on deaf ears. Number 4, attempting to blend in while staying true to yourself. In a world that's constantly pushing conformity, being a Sigma is like being a lone wolf in a herd of sheep. You're part of the crowd, yet starkly different. You're stuck in this never-ending struggle of trying to blend in, yet not losing your essence. It's like trying to color within the lines, while your nature urges you to create a masterpiece beyond the canvas. You're caught in the crossfire of societal expectations and individual authenticity, left juggling between the need to fit in and the drive to remain unique. People often mistake your low profile for weakness or lack of personality. They overlook your inner strength, the silent power that makes you who you are. You're not one to make a lot of noise, but when you do speak, it's with purpose and meaning. Your actions are measured, and your words are chosen with care. You don't seek validation. You're self-sufficient, independent, and comfortable in your own skin. Yet the world keeps trying to put you in a box, to label you, to make you fit. They don't understand that Sigma doesn't blend into the crowd. He stands out on his own terms. You're not defined by the group. You're defining yourself. This struggle, this frustrating dance between blending in and staying true to yourself, that's a battle only Sigma men truly understand. Number 5, accused of arrogance for your thoughtful silence. Silence is not merely a lack of words, it's your space for contemplation, a realm where thoughts bloom and ideas take root. It's the canvas on which you paint your understanding of the world, the platform where you construct your strategies. But too often, this thoughtful silence is misinterpreted and mistaken for arrogance or indifference. People are so used to noise and constant chatter that when they encounter silence, they fill it with their own assumptions. They see your silence as arrogance, a sign that you believe you're above conversation or social engagement. It's like sitting quietly in a busy coffee shop, absorbed in the world inside your head, only to have someone accuse you of being a snob because you're not joining the hubbub. You're not being arrogant or antisocial. You're simply savoring your thoughts, indulging in your internal dialogue. But explaining this to others often feels like trying to describe a color to someone who's colorblind. It's a perspective they simply can't grasp. This frequent misunderstanding, being labeled arrogant when you're just being thoughtful, is a frustration uniquely understood by Sigmas. You're not too proud to engage, but you choose to dive deeper, to allow your thoughts to simmer beneath the surface before serving them in conversation. It's not arrogance. It's just that silence speaks volumes more than empty chatter. Number 6. When you try to change, they call it acting. It's a twist of irony, isn't it? The moment you decide to embrace change, the world suddenly turns into a stage, and you're cast as a performer, an actor. The same people who had previously taunted you for your characteristic silence and solitude are now quick to question your authenticity. They see your dynamic evolution as a form of pretense, a dramatic act put on for the audience. But what they fail to grasp is that change is not a performance. It's growth, a sign of adaptability. It doesn't mean that you're trading your authentic self for a role. It's just an indication of your willingness to evolve, to break out of your shell and explore new sectors of your personality. It's like a caterpillar morphing into a butterfly. It's not an act, it's a transformation. This mockery, this blatant ignorance towards your personal growth, is a frustration that Sigma men can truly understand. You're not putting on a show or donning a mask. You're just daring to be different, striving to be better. But in the eyes of the world, your metamorphosis is reduced to mere play acting. It's a battle between your desire to grow and the world's persistent ignorance about your journey. Number 7. Misplaced assumptions about your emotions. Your emotions are often shrouded in mystery, leading many to make misplaced assumptions. It's an unfortunate side effect of your inherent stoicism and reserved nature. People tend to mistake your emotional depth for emotional distance and your introspection for indifference. You're not one to wear your heart on your sleeve, nor do you feel the need to broadcast your emotions in grand gestures. You just process feelings in your own space, at your own pace. This, however, can lead others to misread your silence, interpreting it as a lack of empathy or emotional investment. It's like being in a quiet, contemplative mood and having someone accuse you of being moody or detached. The world may not understand that silence is not an absence of feeling, but rather a sanctuary for thoughtful emotion processing. It's a disheartening dance, this struggle of having your emotions misunderstood and misinterpreted. You're not devoid of emotions, you simply handle them in a different, more reflective way. You understand that emotions aren't something to be paraded, but to be respected and comprehended. It's not emotional absence, it's emotional intelligence, something only Sigma men can truly understand. Number 8. You mysteriously vanish from crowded parties. The bustling energy of crowded parties often fails to appease the Sigma man's desire for meaningful interaction. You're more likely to be found nestled in a quiet corner, engaged in an in-depth conversation with a like-minded individual, rather than being the life of the party. But when that one-on-one interaction is unavailable, or the small talk becomes too unbearable, you find yourself quietly slipping out of the back door, mysteriously vanishing from the scene. It's a frustrating scenario that you understand all too well. It's not that you despise social gatherings, but you yearn for genuine connections, not superficial chatter. You seek out depth in your interactions, not the shallow banter that parties usually offer. Yet your unannounced departures often invite scrutiny, misinterpretations, and sometimes even ridicule. People mistake your withdrawal for rudeness, your need for solitude for antisocial behavior. It's like being a wolf amidst a flock of sheep, misunderstood simply because you're different. You're not antisocial. You just value your peace over popularity. You're not fleeing the scene. You're merely seeking an escape from the noise to recharge your mental batteries. But explaining this to those who thrive on social energy is like explaining a symphony to someone who only understands noise. Number 9. Constantly being underestimated and overlooked. Sigma men often fly under the radar, staying out of the limelight and choosing to operate in the background. This low-key approach often leads to one of the most frustrating experiences, being constantly underestimated and overlooked. It's like being the dark horse in a race, with everyone too focused on the flashy, gregarious alpha to notice your quiet strength and potential. This doesn't mean you're lacking in skill or competence. Actually, you possess a deep reservoir of untapped potential, waiting to be unleashed when the time is right. But the world's obsession with loud, assertive personalities often blinds them to your silent prowess. You're not the one to boast or flaunt your skills, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. It's like being an unsung hero in a tale that glorifies the loud and obvious, a frustration that only you can understand. You're not less competent. You're just quietly competent, a mystery waiting to be discovered. Number 10. People ignoring your preferences for solitude. As a Sigma, you've chosen a path that values solitude and introspection, a path that isn't always understood by the masses. You find solace in the quiet corners of your mind, and you appreciate the peaceful melody of silence. But despite your clear preference, people seem to insist on pulling you into the whirlwind of social engagements. It's as if your solitude were some gauntlet to be broken down, an oddity to be corrected. But what they fail to realize is that your solitude is not a symbol of loneliness. It's a realm of self-discovery and introspection. It's not that you're shy or antisocial, you just value the depth of your own thoughts over the chatter of the crowd. This constant push and pull between your love for solitude and the world's misunderstanding of it is a frustration that only Sigmas can truly understand. They're not hiding from the world, they're simply engaging with it on their own terms. Number 11, being labeled as rebellious for simply following your own path. You don't conform to society's norms and expectations. You choose to chart your own course, to take the road less traveled, to carve your own niche. But this independence, this bold refusal to play by the rules, is often misinterpreted as rebellion. It's like being a square peg in a round hole, an outlier that doesn't fit into the rigid structures of society. But what they fail to understand is that your rebellion is not for the sake of being different. You're simply listening to the beat of your own drum and walking your own path. Yet society, with its conventional wisdom and herd mentality, views your nonconformity as a challenge to the status quo. But you understand that following your own path isn't about rebelling, it's about being true to who you are. It's about living life on your own terms, even if that means going against the grain. This is not rebellion, this is self-determination, a concept that only Sigma men can truly appreciate. It's a battle only you know, a unique frustration understood only by your kind. You're not a rebel without a cause. You're a man with a path of his own.